on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for Married at First Sight, Season 18. And we on the Where Are They Now video, y'all. This is the last episode of Season 18. They are calling it Where Are They Now? And I'm going to retitle it. Redos and Regrets. Redos and Regrets, because where are they now? First of all, we already know where Juan is. Juan is still on the YouTube channels spilling all his business. I never met no person before who complained about another person telling their secret, but they the only one on camera still talking about the secret. In fact, every time they get on camera, they give us even more detailed information. I'm so sick of Juan. I am so sick of Juan. You know, when this show came on about Where Are They Now, really the only place I wanted to see Juan was on the couch of a therapist. Really. That's the only place I wanted to see him. And now we find out that this new woman he got, when he said he got a new Brazilian, he's happy, she don't even live in the same city. Where does she live, Juan? In Brazil? Good Lord. You done got an imported woman just to prove to us you could have a girlfriend. This ain't no real relationship. This is not no real relationship. This is another fake move by Juan to present a person he's not. All y'all got on me all season long. Why you so hard on Juan? From day one, I told you I didn't like that man. Well, I guess now you can see why I don't like him. And we come to find out on this episode, the whole Juancho Pancho business idea was Carla's. You mean to tell me the person who didn't have any business acumen, now Juan is taking a page out her book. He's actually going with the title of a company, a theme of a company. I'm talking about redos and regrets. I know Carla got a regret, and I'm going to tell you what her regret is going into business with Juan. I told you, Carla. I told you, Carla. I told you, Carla. You should have left that man on that couch with those experts when you said you wanted a divorce. I told you. I'm going to tell you, Carla, your biggest problem in life is you're going to have people who use you. Because, Carla, you got a talent. I've been telling you this all along. You got a talent, and people are going to use you for it. And then what they're going to do, people who are dishonest like Juan, they're not going to actually have the courage to give you the flowers you deserve or compliments. So instead, what they're going to do is they're going to put you down for everything that you are. But in the background, they're going to try to copy you. That's Juan. You talk about EKG being jealous of all season. Y'all better get on this bandwagon. Think about Juan. Juan has complained about everything that Carla does. Everything. But yet here we find him darn near copying everything that she does. Now we find out that his little Brazilian, out of town, out of the country, out of the continent woman is a lash and eyebrow woman. Give me a break. Talking about, oh yeah, but she's been in business for 9 years. Carla been doing hair since 12. Juan, what the hell are you talking about? I tell you, when I told you guys the reason why Juan did not like Carla, he was never telling us the truth. I hope y'all see it now. You cannot dislike a person or disagree with a person, not dislike, disagree with a person with so many things, but then try to copy that person and also steal or run with their ideas. Okay? Juan ain't no good business person. Let me tell you something right now. Juan is not a good business person. And Carla don't need to be taking no tips from him. He's gaslighting you, Carla. He's making you believe he has good business acumen, and he doesn't. Juan got a whole lot of talk because what he does is he puts on acts. Okay? If Juan was a good business person, he wouldn't still be on YouTube making these foolish videos that he's been making. But like I said, redos and regrets. What we do not need from Juan is a redo. No, Juan, no more redos for you. We want you off our YouTube screen. I do not want you popping up on my algorithm. I don't even want anyone else sending me any more videos about Juan. I'm sick of Juan. And I know Carla got a regret, a big old regret. Who else got redos? Got a redo. Got to redo with Brandon. I'm happy for him. Like I told y'all before, y'all can get mad if you want to at me, But I like it when people find a partner that they can love and can love on them and they can be happy. And let me tell you, MM and Brandon look happy. I saw that little counseling session with Dr. Pastor Cal. He got it wrong. He got it wrong. But I'm going to go over what he got wrong about Brandon and MM, and I'm happy for Brandon MM, and I think they're going to do well. I said it last time. They're going to do well. David and Madison got a redo. Look at them. They are thriving. They are doing well together. Once again, like I said before, a lot of people may not like them together because they don't like them individually, but together they are an excellent match. I love it, love it, love it. Michelle, full of regret. Full of regret, but you know what, Michelle? Heal and go forward. Heal and go forward. Glad to see you finally realized how Carla, what she said, you were having a brat girl summer. Absolutely, a brat girl summer and winter. Carla's got to be full of regret going into business with Juan. Absolutely. And EKG is full of regrets. He's full of regrets because he still ain't got no friends. EKG has talked about he just wants to spend some alone time on the Where They Now. That's what EKG's been doing his whole life. EKG is another person that needs to go see a therapist. EKG, please, EKG, please, please, EKG, go to a therapist and work this out. EKG has no friends. He didn't have one friend to bring on the show. I know he had to dial up his mama on the show, but of course your mama gonna show up for you. And then he had to call up his brother on the show, which we could realize he hadn't even talked to his brother for I don't know long. His brother had to tell him that his niece was already walking and talking. That's a dead giveaway you don't keep in touch, EKG. EKG don't talk to no one. He made no friends, and now he's sitting over here trying to bond with the guys after the show is all over. EKG ain't got no friends. He's a loner. He's a lone wolf, okay? He needs to stop blaming other people for his problems in life, and he needs to do like Michelle. Look in the mirror and confront thyself. That's what he needs to do. And the last person I know who is full of regret is Thomas. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Camille, you and Thomas need to go see a marital counselor. You absolutely do. Because I'm going to tell you what, Thomas is not happy. I don't care how much Thomas sat in front of this camera and said what he said. The most true and authentic moment that Thomas had was with his brother when he told his brother he was still waiting for the passion to come after one whole year. And his brother asked him, could you see yourself with this woman for the rest of your life? And what Thomas said was, I don't know. Let me tell you something. If that is not a red flag, if that's not an alarm, then I don't know what is. And Camille, I don't even think you knew Thomas's answer. I suspect Thomas is doing the same thing Thomas always does, and he doesn't open his mouth, right? He doesn't tell Camille what he's really thinking. Because every time there's a question posed to Camille and Thomas, Camille is the first one to talk. She don't know how to listen. Camille does not know how to listen. And in fact, I'm going to tell Camille something. Girl, you are selfish and you need to get a hold of it. If you watch Camille and Thomas's scenes, Camille is always talking about what she wants, what she needs. I need flowers. I need chocolate. I need romance. I need this. Have you ever heard Camille ask Thomas one time what he needs? Thomas is waiting for Camille to say, thank you for all these flowers and chocolate and romance and dinner dates and all this other kind of stuff. But what do you need? What do you need, Thomas? Because let me tell you something. She never asked the question. I dare anyone to go back through this entire episode and you tell me, when was there an honest conversation with Thomas and Camille where she said to him, how am I doing as a wife? What do you need from me? Let me tell you something. Camille, you were afraid about Thomas leaving you after 9 years like he did that other woman because he wouldn't speak up to that woman and tell that woman what he really wanted. So he went out and cheated on her and then eventually just left. He going to do that to you. But let me tell you, it's not going to take 9 years. It's not going to take 9 years because what Thomas is not going to do is he's not going to sit in this relationship for 9 years. You see, they already done postponed the children. All of a sudden now, Thomas was gung-ho on having children right away. All of a sudden we get on the Where Are They Now a year later And all of a sudden, Thomas is saying he's willing to wait. Yeah, he's willing to wait. He's willing to wait because now what he's thinking, not only do I not know if I want to be married to this woman for the rest of my life, I'm not all the way sure do I want to have children with her because I don't know if I'll be here. I'm telling you, Camille, you better read between the lines. Okay? Thomas is the type of person where he holds a lot of his feelings back. And when you talk about trauma bonding, which Pastor Cal brought up, trauma bonding with MM and Brandon, that ain't trauma bonding. I'm going to talk about that. But you know who really is trauma bonding? Camille and Thomas. What's the worst part of trauma bonding is when you marry or in your partnership with the person who not your perpetrator, the person who takes advantage of you. You see, old girl MM and Brandon, they're not predators of each other. They're both willing to enter their relationship because they're both solving a path or healing a past wound both of them have. That's what I see between Michelle and David. They're healing each other's past wounds. MM and Brandon, they're healing each other's past wounds. And I'm going to get into what those wounds are. But with Camille and Thomas, it's not a healing going on. Because when Thomas sat there and said, it's not a healing going on, it's actually a re-injuring of the same wound. When Thomas sat on there and said, I'm still waiting for the passion to come, he used the wrong word. What he was saying was, I'm still waiting for the unconditional love to come, because Camille's love is conditional. Camille's love is conditioned on if Thomas does this, and this. She did it all season long. I'll have sex with you when you do this. I'll wear sexy lingerie when you do this. I'll slob the knob when you do this. What Thomas is realizing is that to get something from Camille, he has to do a whole lot of stuff. And that doesn't feel unconditional. That feels conditional. And what Thomas is coming from, he's coming from a history of being adopted, whereby he has a fear of abandonment. And when you're with a person who is telling you that their love is conditional, if you do this and this, it doesn't feel safe and secure. It feels like if I mess up, if I do something wrong, you'll take your love away from me. And that's triggering to Thomas. Thomas cannot rest in this relationship because what Camille has done, even when she sits, I don't even know if she realizes what she does. When she is praising Thomas, she's always praising him for what he does for her. It's always based on what he does for her. And she never talks about what she does for him. And as a result, Thomas is triggered by Camille. So when you talk about trauma bonding, the real trauma bonding couple right now is Camille and Thomas. Camille and Thomas. And I'm going to tell you right now, Camille's quest to give everybody direction, to tell everyone what to do, she's bonding with Thomas because she likes to tell Thomas what to do. And what she likes to do is lord over Thomas, take away privileges for Thomas if he doesn't act right, because that's what she learned in her childhood. She learned how to be the boss. She learned how to punish people. All this competition. She likes to punish people in the bedroom and sex and everything else. Y'all might be wondering why I'm so much on Camille, because let me tell you, I see this marriage in trouble. It's in trouble. They need marital counseling. And Camille, girl, you need to wake up. Camille is so busy over here trying to give David and Madison kudos and advice because she's talking about her marriages all together. Camille, your marriage is in worse shape than anyone else's, even Brandon and MM. So I'm gonna tell you that as much foolery as Brandon and MM's get together has been, their relationship is more solid than yours and Thomas. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And I don't know if Camille is watching this, but if there is any Married at First Sight cast member watching this video, you need to go talk to your girl Camille. And you need to tell her what I told her. Maybe you don't tell her that I said it because she may not receive it well. But tell her with love, because I'm telling you, all kind of fire alarms are going off in my head about these two. And Even when they had that little candle scent making class that Carla did, she showed up in that two-piece one more time. And I was thinking to myself, Camille is over here resting as if she has this solid marriage, but she's solid because what she's getting is everything she wants out of the marriage. And I also saw a concerted effort from Camille to overly try to sort of compliment Thomas because she too rewatched herself on the episodes. A lot of people rewatch themselves, and Camille saw what the audience was saying about the way she was treating Thomas, and what she didn't want to do was show up in this Where Are They Now acting the same kind of way. But the reason why I know she's the same person is because she still had on that same two-piece. She did. And I know Thomas's family felt some kind of way about the season. And I saw that she's trying to clean up her act with that family too. And that's good that they're trying to give her a break. But what's not changing with Camille is her inside. And the reason why I know it's not changing is because of the way Thomas is still feeling. The fact that Thomas is still feeling no passion, and I don't think it's because he's, like he told his brother, it's not about the bedroom. It's about a feeling I can't live without you. Because what Thomas is feeling is that if he ever falls down and stops doing something, that Camille would withdraw her love. Because if you listen to Camille's conversation, her speech, all of her love for Thomas is based on what Thomas does. You see, but yet I still have not heard any special acts of kindness, love, unconditional love that Camille gives to Thomas. All Thomas talks about Camille does is she's smart, she's got business acumen, she's a nice person, this and that, right? But she don't make Thomas feel the way he needs to feel. And let me tell you something. If you listen to all the other men who are in love, who are really in love, the Brandons, the Davids, what they all say is what really makes them love these women is because of the way that woman makes them feel, and they can't see themselves living without them. If your man can't live without you, and I'm not talking about, this is where I get into it with women. Women always talk about, I don't need a man, I don't need a man. Marriage is not about needing each other, because most people can take care of themselves out here in the world. Most people can to some degree. Marriage is about not necessarily the need of someone, but it's about wanting someone so much because they make your life better, or they make your journey of life more pleasurable. And what Thomas sat on here on national TV and told us is he's missing that. He's missing it. And Camille better listen, because Camille, be honest with you, in more ways is getting more out of this deal than Thomas is. Well, I done gone too far into my review. I really done gone too far in my review, running my mouth. So at this point in time, I'm going to play my introduction video. Y'all done heard enough to like the video by now. I done talked here for how long now? 15 minutes? So you done heard enough by now that if you ain't hit that like button, you need to hit it. Hit the like button. Drop me a comment down right now already on this first 15 minutes. And then subscribe. And then at the end of the video, you can leave me another comment. That's what I want y'all to do. I'm Camille. I'm bossing you around right now. Like the video, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm going to play this introduction video, and I'm going to see you on the back end so we can really get into this episode. All righty. Okay, we back, y'all. Like I said, I'm retitling this video, not Where Are They Now, but Regrets and Redos. And one of the redos we got to see was Madison and David, and I'm happy for them. I told you I was really fine with this couple long time ago, because once I got out of my mind the fake person Madison was telling us who she was, and I really start to see who Madison really was, I could clearly see they make a good couple. I could clearly see it. I know a lot of women are running around talking about, oh, I can't find me a man. I want me a man. And you ask them, what kind of man do you want? And women are running around talking about they want a leader, they want a protector, they want a provider. Well, guess what? You should have married Madison because she's all three. Madison is a leader, she is a protector, and she's a provider. And you know who's happy about Madison being in David's life? His parents. His parents are happy. His parents are happy. You know, I know they had that little pool table rendezvous with the whole family. And Madison finally told her father that they were living together. And the father talked to David's family and said, hey, did you know they was living together? And that father of David said, yeah, I knew they were living together because he was packing up his stuff. And he said, and my food out of the refrigerator wasn't eaten. David is a big old kid, a big old kid. And the one thing about a big old kid is that they can't be happy people because they don't really have any pressures of life. It's like childlike. It's like you don't really have to worry about no bills. You don't have to worry about going to work. You don't have to worry about your health because you're young. I mean, you know, living a child life where you don't have a lot of responsibilities. I mean, it makes for a wonderful life. It really does. And David is happy because what he has in Madison is a leader, a protector, and a provider. And when Madison said, you know, I may not want to stay in Chicago because since I'm going to be the leader, protector, and provider, I need to make moves with my career because my career is going to be the most important. I'm going to be making the most money, and we're going to need to go where we can really stretch our money. And Chicago might not be the place because Chicago can be expensive. And I might not want to live here forever. And David said, just like a dutiful housewife who's married a leader, protector, provider, David said, that's okay. Wherever you want to go, I'll go. I will go wherever you need to go because you're the leader of this family. You're the protector. You're the provider. And I will put my career number 2 so your career can be number 1 and we can go wherever. As long as I'm with you, Madison, I'm happy. Let me tell you, role reversal. This is, you know, a lot of people, y'all probably jealous of David right now because y'all are jealous of David because you know what? You might wish you were David now. David is looking better. David done lost weight. So David gets to go to the gym for real now and really work out because remember, Madison is on the road. She must be in sales or something. She really only home on the weekend. She got a lot of travel. So when David is home by himself, just like a dutiful housewife, she's keeping it just like a housewife, stay in shape, keep it nice and tight. That's David. David done gone to the gym. He's losing that belly. He's looking good. He's working out. That fat is turning into muscle. You know, it's so interesting to see David with all the gold chains on the wrist, the necklace, the earrings. And if y'all remember how Madison told Alan, I don't want you to wear no jewelry. Remember when Alan wanted to wear the gold chains and Madison was for sure did not want Alan to wear any jewelry because she said she didn't like it. But David wears jewelry all the time, all the time. This so much proves that Madison fell in love with David from the very first day they saw each other on that honeymoon. From the honeymoon. It wasn't even when they got back to Chicago. It was on the honeymoon. And it's quite obvious that Madison never really put any effort into the relationship with Alan. And just like David really never put too much emphasis or trying with Michelle either. I know they both try to say they tried, but they tried maybe for day 1, day 2. But after that, it was over. And Madison spent a whole lot of time gaslighting Alan that I don't like this about you. I don't like that about you. You're not in shape. I don't like the jewelry that you wear. I don't like your teeth. She talked about his dress, his teeth, his jewelry, and his body. Yet David had an effed up body. David wore jewelry. His teeth are not all that great. And he doesn't dress all that sharp either. And she loved him. She fell in love with him. And when you talk about her falling in love with him, like I said before, they make the perfect couple. They really do make a great couple. And I see them being together for a very, very, very long time. I think Madison was used to dating bad boys, but I think she was also used to dating sort of like egotistical guys. And I think she said she was always used to dating men who were very handsome. I don't believe that. I think she was used to dating gym rats, muscle men who had really large egos. And the reason why I say they work well together is because Madison does have a large ego herself. And as a result, she needed a man who was willing to fall behind her. And when she was trying to date these other egotistical men, they clashed. They clashed a lot. And so what she needed was she needed a man who was willing to sort of bend to her, chase her, run after her. And that's what we know about David. David is a follower. I know Madison wants to sit on here and say that her man ain't lazy. Everybody calling her man lazy. I don't care what you call it, Madison, lazy or he's a follower. The point of the matter is David has to be inspired by someone else. Someone else has to be the one to tell David what to do. His parents had to tell him what to do. And now you've come along, which is great, and you're getting him in shape. You're probably making him better on the job. And it's nothing wrong with your spouse making you a better person because that's what you want. But you don't want your spouse to be the sole source of a person's inspiration because that can even get tiring on you. So right now, the way I look at David is going to actually do a lot better under the tutelage and the direction of Madison because she's going to keep him on track. And that's why he was lingering in the basement apartment because his parents felt like, we already raised David. We're not going to sit up here and keep telling David what to do, what he needs to do to get his life together. So the parents are happy. The parents are happy that they now have a new woman in David's life that seems to have her stuff together and can tell David what to do. And David is going to do well together. And Madison is going to like the role because Madison also likes to be the leader, the protector, and the provider. And David is more than comfortable letting her play that role in the relationship. And in exchange, David is going to give Madison exactly what she was looking for, which is the freedom. Remember, she talked about she likes freedom, the freedom to do whatever the hell she wants to do, to make decisions she wants to make, and also to have her own personal fan club that tells her how beautiful and wonderful she is. And David is providing all of that. Both of these two are getting out of this marriage what they want. And that is one of the reasons why they are doing so well together. And I believe they are going to continue to do well together because the thing about when we talk about trauma bonding or trauma, whatever else, trauma is stuff that happens typically way past in our lives when we were in childhood. And it influences us even into our adulthood. So when you have things in your past and you find a person in your present that sort of makes those old wounds feel good, then guess what? Instead of your trauma making you feel bad, your trauma now feels good. You see, when David was lazy, shiftless, uninspired, underachiever, there's a good chance that David had a brother who was the opposite. And from what I remember, I thought David's mom was an attorney. I'm not for sure. But I imagine when David was younger, he felt as if he wasn't good enough. He wasn't as good as his brother. What I remember his little brother being more mature than David. So imagine David's grown up in a family where he constantly disappointed his parents because he didn't live up to what his parents probably wanted for him because he's an uninspired man. He needs so much direction. He's not self-motivated. And so he doesn't feel good enough. And then all of a sudden a woman comes along in your life like Madison and she says, you're good enough just the way you are. In fact, you are perfect. You're lovely. You know how good David feels that he didn't have to change a doggone thing and that there was a woman who loved him just as he was. And the reason why Madison is able to love David is because Madison really wants to be the leader in the relationship. And to be the leader in a relationship, you have to have a person who's willing to step down and step back and let you lead. And that's what David wanted all this time. David don't want to be the leader in a relationship. He wants the woman to lead because then he can stay exactly where he's been his whole life, just like when his mom and daddy was leading. So even in the flaws you see with David, they're not flaws to Madison because what Madison was looking for, and she didn't even know she wanted it, she found. Madison was probably at first dating men who she felt, I need a strong man who can handle me because I'm so strong, I'm so bold, I'm so courageous. That's who Madison is out in the world. And she told us that about herself. So what Madison was thinking along the way was that I need an equally strong man to handle me because I'm a lot to deal with. When really what she needed was she needed a man who was going to fall down. A lot of women talk about they want alpha males, but alpha females need to be with beta men. For lack of better terms, I hate the terms alpha and beta. Alpha women need to be with beta men. It's a better match for you. Okay. And Madison is proving this right now, right here, today. How hard of it. Michelle was full of regret. She looked back on how hard of a time she gave David, how she judged him so quickly. I mean, I think she realizes now there was nothing wrong with realizing she didn't want David as a spouse, right? But what she realized she went wrong was she didn't need to treat him poorly like she did. And hopefully Michelle can turn her ship around. Of all the people on the show, I almost feel like the most improved, if we're going to give awards out, I think I'm going to give Michelle the most improved because of everyone who has really recognized some of the things that they did wrong and actually trying to now heal themselves from that and be different. I think it's Michelle, more so than anyone else. I think she showed the most regret. She showed remorse. I like that she apologized to David one last time. And I think this was the most sincere apology from Michelle we've seen the whole season. And hopefully, if she puts her mind to it, she can turn her life around and she can still have what she wants. I don't know if Michelle wants children. She's 40 years old now, but maybe she can speed it up. And maybe she can go out there. And now when she's actually evaluating men and dating men, she will date with not her judgmental eye, but an eye in which the man that she wants, will that man want her? She's going to need to look at that. Every woman who's dating needs to think about the man you want, will they want you? And now we see that another couple healing old wounds. That is what's really binding MM and Brandon together are their old wounds. I know Pastor Cal came through and he's like, okay, if you want me to do this commitment ceremony for you and everything, I'm going to need to counsel you. And I'm going to need to find out, are you really just here for the limelight, Brandon? And then he got into this whole part about asking, are you guys trauma bonding? First of all, I don't believe that they're trauma bonding in the sense that they're marrying each other's the worst part of their trauma, but they are healing each other's trauma. You see, once again, I'm going to liken this almost even to Madison and David, that one thing we know about MM is she likes to be perfect. She likes to be perfect more than, she wants to be perfect. She doesn't want to make any mistakes. And a lot of her questioning when she was questioning Ike was really to learn about him so she could become perfect in his eyes. KG looked at it as being intrusive, as if she was trying to find out dirt on him because KG comes from a trauma place where he doesn't trust people. So when MM was asking Ike a lot of questions, Ike, because of his own trauma, in fact, because he doesn't trust people, he was suspicious of MM. He didn't trust her. It didn't make him feel comfortable because, like I told you before, Ike is hiding. Ike is hiding because of his past trauma, and he actually doesn't feel worthy. This is why Ike doesn't have any friends. Show us one. Show us one of Ike's good friends. And like I said, on this episode, they showed us his mother on the telephone, and that brother had to tell Ike that his niece was actually walking and talking, which tells me he's not really in contact with his brother that much either. And Ike admitted that he hasn't really made many friends in the new area. Like, Ike is a lonely person. He's a lone wolf. He's a leopard. You know how you see a leopard out in the jungle all by themselves. That's Ike, all by himself. And every time you hear him talk, all he's talking about is how he likes to spend time with himself alone. And that is because it's peaceful for him and it's not triggering for him because he doesn't trust people. And he would rather sit alone by himself than to be with people and not know if he can trust them. He's actually admitted that he's just now starting to try to kind of trust the guys. He's so happy that he's made a couple of friends and that possibly these friends could be genuine. He's happy about it because, like I told you before, Ike was betrayed when he was younger. Ike trusted someone when he was younger, and that person took advantage of him. And ever since then, Ike has never been the same. I still stick to, I believe that Ike was not only SA, I think it had to do with a really bad betrayal of someone that he trusted because Ike trusts no one. And so what really went bad with Ike and MM was that MM likes to please. MM likes to be perfect. And so when MM was interviewing Ike and asking him a bunch of questions, Ike took it the wrong way. He took it as, oh, you're trying to learn something about me so you can find, maybe what my flaws are. And that isn't where MM was coming from. What MM was actually doing was she was asking a lot of questions because she wanted to know about Ike so much so she could figure out how she could love him and be perfect in his eyes, because that's MM's trauma, that she wants to be perfect all the time. She doesn't want to fail. Now, who comes along? Who comes along? Who comes along is a man like Brandon, whether he's from her past or her future. But what's clear about Brandon is that he didn't even need to know a whole lot about MM. And what he's saying is, I want you, I want you, I want you. So MM gets her traumas healed because remember, MM wants to be loved, but she feels she needs to be perfect in order to be loved. Well, Brandon is coming in and saying, I don't really even know you yet, and I love you already. You see, that's healing to a person who thinks that they also have to work for love. When you think you have to work for love, which is the opposite of what's going over there with Thomas and Camille, because Thomas also feels as if he's got to work for love. And that's why Camille's got him in a headlock. You see, Camille is doing to Thomas what his trauma is, which is, I have to work so hard for someone to love me, because if I don't be right, if I'm not doing the right things, giving you flowers or giving you candy, you're going to leave me and abandon me like my mama did when I was an adopted child, you see? And that's how MM thinks. So Brandon came over here and is loving on MM like a way she's never ever expected, which is, I didn't even have to do nothing to be loved by this man. I didn't have to do nothing to be loved by this man. This man loves me. He don't really even know that much about me. And what MM is saying is, this feels good. This feels really, really good because I'm just so used to having to work. And then you look at Brandon over here, and what he tells us is that one of the reasons why he loves MM is because everything that she does for him. If you listen to Brandon, he talks just like Camille, what she does for me. And I don't want to say that you shouldn't be doing stuff for your spouse, but when that's the sole source of the reason why they love you, then you know what, you need a little bit more balance in your marriage. And so what Brandon says is, I like the way that MM cares for me and cares for my children, what she does for us. I like how she does this for me, takes care of me, and all this other. That's what Brandon loves. Brandon loves that. And so in a lot of ways, I think that's what he likes about MM. And like I said, what's Brandon's trauma? He told us a little bit about his history with his father. His father was absentee. And then once he was able to get to know his father and start reconnecting with his father then committed suicide. Okay, so that is a big source of trauma in even Brandon's life. A source of trauma in Brandon's life where he didn't have a father there to do things for him, right? And who knows what type of mother that he had, because if he had a father who obviously suffered from some sort of mental health issues, and I'm sure those mental health issues didn't just start later in life, it's a good chance that that father had those mental health issues even earlier when Brandon was younger, and Brandon may not have known about it, or he may have known about it. And I'm not for sure how that played out in the relationship with his mother, but it seems pretty obvious that Brandon's hole in his life is having a person in his life that's going to do things for him. Um, he either he's thirsty for it. He was thirsty for it. And, you can see when he first met MM last time on the episode, he said, he goes, EKG blew it. That's what he said. EKG blew it. He had a woman that was thirsty for him, was willing to do anything in the marriage for him, and he blew it. Because what Brandon was saying is, I would love that. I would love to be in a relationship with a woman who was willing to do anything to please me. And he found that in MM, because that's what MM grew up with, having to do a lot to be perfect, to please someone in her life. More than likely it's one of her parents, so that she could feel loved. And so what happened here was that these two got together. MM felt immediately loved because Brandon saw in her what he's always been looking for, and what she saw in him was everything that he's been looking for. I'm pretty sure that Brandon's wife was the one that wanted a divorce, because not only did she tell him, get the F out, that's why he was on the couch, but he was able to get his divorce really, really fast, which means that woman didn't hold it up at all. She was like, where do I sign? That woman was tired. That woman was tired. She was tired of carrying the load of Brandon and having to play a role in his life that was a heavy, heavy load. And she was happy to get rid of it. And MM, on the other hand, has a large capacity because she's been doing it her whole life. And so as long as Brandon continues to love on MM is going to continue to provide all that stuff to Brandon that he's looking for. I see it lasting. I see it lasting. We finally got to see Carla's place. All of y'all that said Carla was broke, busted. Now we find out Carla has an apartment, looked nice. Carla's business ideas were taken up by Juan. Juan is over here taking spiritual retreats, talking about crystals, has a crystal around his neck. What y'all think of this now? It almost seems as if a lot of people let Juan gaslight them all season long. Juan was able to manipulate a lot of people out here and make himself seem like he was the businessman. He had all these great business ideas. He knew how to run a business. That he was more level-headed, and you come to find out that he's none of that. And you also come to find out that Carla isn't as worse as you thought. But Carla did admit to something, which I thought was good growth, was that the last time she admitted that she might, when she first meets a person, she might need to tone it down a little bit. As she's first starting to get to know a person, that's good. But what she also admitted was that she does need a person in her life that's going to balance her out, right? And that she knows that she can be more free-spirited, and she does want a person who's a bit more like a Juan, who might be more grounded. That way they can balance each other out. The problem that happened with Juan and Carla was that I think Carla knew some of the benefits that Juan was bringing into her life, and I think that's why she initially chose to go into business with him. But I think where it really went awry was that Juan, because he doesn't really know who he is, he couldn't see the benefits of Carla in his life. And Juan, seeing the differences in Carla, what he did was he became more afraid of the differences in Carla. And in a lot of ways, he actually became jealous of the differences of Carla. Juan's life is spent living it uptight and living in fear and paranoia. These videos that Juan are doing, they are filled with paranoia. I told you that Juan wants to run around and act like he's so happy-go-lucky. He's a happy person. He's not. He's a person that lives in fear, as if the boogeyman is always coming to get him. These videos that he's doing and putting out on the internet are filled with paranoia. He's talking about secrets that no one knows. But let me tell you something, Juan. The fact that you keep talking about these secrets, there's someone out here who's going to do enough digging to actually find out what it is. And then you're going to blame and say it was Carla, and it's not going to be Carla. It's going to be your fault. Juan is scared of the boogeyman, just like that story that when he was in Colombia, the reason why his parents gave him to his aunt was because the maid was trying to steal Juan. That's Juan's whole life, trauma, that someone is trying to come and get him. That's his whole trauma. His fear with Carla was that Carla was going to lead him down this dark path of being financially insecure and they were going to be broke. That was his whole biggest fear, paranoia. And come to find out, he's with a lash and eyebrow girl. And I'm not saying that her career ain't stable, but how is it any more stable than Carla's? Carla's been a hairstylist for 12 years. Come on, I love her work ethic. Her work ethic where? In Brazil? Where is this woman living? Where is this woman living, Juan? Juan lives in paranoia, fear, and jealousy. That's how he operates. He operates out of fear, paranoia, and jealousy. And so even though Carla can understand that when she goes back out here and finds a person, she doesn't want a person exactly like her, Juan actually doesn't need a person exactly like him. You know, he actually needs to go and find a person who actually isn't as scary as him so that person can help him. Maybe he likes this woman because, I don't know, does she live in Brazil? Brazil got a lot of problems. There's a lot of great things happening in Brazil, but there's a lot of turmoil in Brazil. And so I don't know if this woman still has, maybe trauma from a poverty mindset. I have no idea. I'm not going to make any assumptions about her, but I don't even really believe they're a real couple. Because remember when I saw that facial expression of that woman, I wasn't convinced she was happy in the relationship with Juan. And I'm sure we'll be hearing that they're not together anymore because this was all for show. Juan is trying to dispel some of these rumors out here because there are a lot of rumors that one of the secrets is that Juan swings both ways. I don't know if that's true or not. And I think what Juan is trying to do is once again, distract people, but yet he's calling attention to himself. He says he wants Carla not to reveal his secrets, but he's actually revealing his own secrets. Juan got issues. Issues. He needs to go find a new therapist. I know he said he had one. He needs a new one, a brand new one. And Carla, you need to get far away from Juan. I told you this before from day one. When you said no, you should have kept walking. You didn't. You went back because you thought Juan could help you. And now what you realize is Juan can't help you. You're doing more help to Juan than Juan was helping you. Juan has made everyone believe that he's the helper, and he actually is the one that needs help. He needs help. We got to see Camille and Thomas, like I said, going over there and visiting Thomas's family, blending their families. So the brother and the sister is like, okay, Camille, does Thomas have enough swag now? Yeah. Yes, he has enough swag. It just need to come out in him. Girl, you in trouble. Camille, you in trouble. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to tell you something else. That brother ain't convinced either. That brother's not convinced because that twin brother, knows his twin brother and Thomas, and that twin brother knows that Thomas does not have with Camille what he would want for Thomas. And as much hanging out as they do with Madison and David, one thing Thomas is realizing is that Madison and David have a whole lot more PDA than Camille and Thomas. And what Thomas wants, one of the reasons why Thomas is drawn to the relationship of Madison and David is because that's what he wants. He wants that unconditional love, but the love he got with Camille is conditional. Conditional. Right? Everybody else is talking about the way you make me feel, how I feel around you. It's almost like a deep feeling. And Thomas and Camille's relationship is very still surfacey. It's about, it's one-sided. That's all Camille talks about is what Thomas does for her. But you never hear about What is she doing to explore how she could be more helpful, useful, and nurturing to Thomas? You never hear about it. You never hear about it. She don't even ask him, hey, what more do you want from me? What could I do better? They need to go see a marital counselor, because if they wait too long before they go to counseling, it's going to be so much stuff that Thomas is going to hold in. By the time they get ready to unearth it and cover it, it might be too late, because Thomas needs to learn how to speak out sooner. Thomas, open your mouth, because if you don't open your mouth, you are also going to destroy this relationship. So I'm not even going to put all the work on Camille, because in one way, Camille does need to learn how to ask. She needs to learn how to listen. She talks way too much, doesn't do enough listening. But Thomas absolutely has to learn how to open his mouth. And he doesn't open his mouth. Thomas is so afraid of rejection, so afraid of being abandoned, that what he does is he doesn't speak his truth, because he's afraid of disrupting the situation that then will lead to abandonment. But in the end, it still ends up in the same place, because the relationship is slowly, because there's no real good communication, the relationship is slowly choked off. So Thomas, you're not winning. You need to understand this. Thomas, you need to understand that delaying opening up your mouth and being honest with Camille and telling Camille you are not happy, you are really not getting out of the relationship what you want. You need more, and you need the relationship to be based off of love and not off of what you do for her. If you do not tell her this, you will slowly die inside, and then the marriage will die. You think you're preserving the marriage. Like I said before, there was one part when Thomas and Camille said, or Thomas said, everything in the relationship is going well. We don't even argue. We don't have any disagreements. That right there was an indication that they're not being real with each other. It's Carlin and Juan's marriage all over again. I said last time, if you don't argue with the person that you're in love with, that means your heart ain't in it. There ain't no passion. Because let me tell you something, you don't argue with people who you could care less about. You don't. There's no arguments. That's why when Juan and Carla talk about this was the most healthy relationship they had, it wasn't healthy because you didn't have any arguments. That's actually unhealthy. That tells you something is wrong. Should you be arguing all the time? No. But when you stop arguing with a person, that means you don't care. You don't care. And Thomas and Camille over here judging their relationship based on whether they don't argue. But the reason they're not arguing is because there is no passion. You're not passionate about each other. You're not passionate about anything. And Thomas isn't being real. So of course there's no arguments. So Thomas is over here trying to keep the peace, trying not to argue, but he's slowly dying inside. You could see it. You could see Thomas slowly dying inside, and Camille is oblivious to it, because Camille only looks at what she wants. Camille always wants to win. You see, I told you from the beginning that was a problem with a person who's competitive, because when a person is so fixated on winning all the time, they're fixated on them winning. But for you to work as a couple, sometimes you got to lose. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But Camille, the situation she wants all the time is she always wants to be the winner. She wants to be the number one in basketball, and she wants to be the number one in this relationship, which means I don't ever care about your feelings. I'm never going to let you win at charades. I'm never going to let you win at basketball. I'm never going to let you win at wrestling. And I'm not going to ever let you win in this relationship, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I get everything I want, and I could give a damn about what you want, because I need to be the winner. I need to be in charge. And that's Camille's problem. Tough love, Camille. I know it's some tough love I'm giving you, but girl, you need to learn this before your marriage is in the gutter. And you also need to learn it that if you can't save this marriage, you'll do better in the next one. Camille has done no work on herself. She's running around here believing she's the best thing since sliced bread. Everybody else is doing some reflecting about how they could do things differently. Camille, no. Camille says the only reason she's changed and she's better is because Thomas finally stepped up. Think about that. Camille is now over here singing the praises of Thomas because Thomas stepped up. It's not because she's done something different. And she says, as long as he's consistent and as long as he keeps this up, everything will be good. Girl, go sit down. Go sit down. I'm going from poor Thomas to Doubting Thomas. That's who I'm going to call him. Doubting Thomas, because Thomas is not convinced that this is forever, ever, ever. He's not convinced. Everybody was over here making all these candles. Camille came in one more time with that two-piece. Like I said, she ain't changed a damn thing. She's still rolling up in a new two-piece. She called her candle one evening of love. One evening, is that all Thomas gets, Camille, is one evening of love? Are you slobbing the knob on that evening of love? You know, MM called hers commitment day, a clean scent, a fresh start. I believe that Michelle also called hers a fresh start. She went with some fresh linen scent as well. Madison, girl, you called yours right. Drunken love. Madison says, I know what works for me. Drinking and sexing, and that's what I like. And she called herself Drunken Love. And she says, I'm gonna make it musky and masculine. Let me tell you, Madison's candle was not about David, it was about her. She is the one that's drunk in love, and she is the one that's musky and masculine. And she says, just the way I like it. Just the way I like it. Musky and masculine, because I'm the leader, the protector, and the provider. Carla says she's calling hers a PP, pussy power. Because what she's realizing is, I'm not as much in the clouds as I thought I was. And here was this business guru in Juan talking about how he was such a business guru. And Carla says, now I figured out that I have a little bit of business sense too. You know, I've been running around here not believing in myself, but now that I'm sitting next to a person who so-called says he's a business guru, I'm realizing that I got business ideas too. Because in fact, when they had that business meeting with his sister, like Juan said, he didn't even show up with no laptop to take no notes. Carla said, how you the business person and you ain't even come here with nothing but a logo of Juancho's Ponchos with your face on it? More spotlight, more spotlight. He didn't even know that the whole item or merchandise that Carla was planning, that it was going to go from a poncho to a purse. Juancho didn't even know what the item was. Juancho was just so fixated on being on the logo, his face. He didn't even know what item they were about to market. He didn't even know nothing about it. He's such a lousy business person. Please, Juan. Juan, leave. Juan, leave. Carla tried to do another sound bath for everyone, you know, and MM said she wants to release her past. And Camille said she wants to release how she looks at things or how things should go, right? That's that bossy part in her. I want to be in control. I got to orchestrate everything. And she's so busy trying to run everybody else, she's not pouring in anyone. I don't believe nothing, Camille. I don't believe anything Thomas says when he was saying all those, oh, I've got the best wife in the world. He may say it with his lips, but he don't feel it in his soul. And that's why he said there's no passion, because it's coming out his mouth, but he don't feel it. He don't even feel the words that he's saying. Madison said that she also wants to try to release some control. Girl, don't release no control, because if you release control, David ain't going to be happy. David likes you because you like to be in control. That's why he likes you. He wants a leader, protector, provider. So you don't need to release no control. Madison only release control if David says, okay, the leash is too tight. But David loves you being in control. That's why he's with you. So if you start releasing too much control, then David is going to start floundering out there. Or maybe Madison didn't say that. Maybe Madison says she wants to release resentment. And I think that was towards Michelle. She wants to release being resentful to Michelle because Michelle hurt her man. And like she knows, she's the protector of the family. So she wants to have a bit more empathy. All righty then, that'll work. But in the end, Pastor Cal agreed to do this commitment ceremony for MM. And he said she was glowing. And I agree. I never seen MM smile so much. All season long, Emin would have these resting RBF, resting bitch face. She'd be making these faces. They were very, very unattractive. And you could tell that the reason she was having them was because what she was hearing she didn't like, but she was trying not to say the words. And so there was a disconnect between what she was feeling on the inside and her facial expressions. What she was feeling inside was not good stuff. She didn't like what EKG was saying, but her facial expression, she was trying to kind of have a poker face, but she didn't. So it always looked at RBF. But when she's with Brandon, she lights up. She glows because Brandon feeds her with good, affirming feedback, compliments. He really pumps her up and he really makes her feel loved. And as a result, I've never seen MM smile so much. And Pastor Cal said, how do you know that he's not love bombing her? Well, love bombing is when, you just say a whole lot of nice things about a person, but then you don't deliver. It's a lot of words, but zero action. And also, love bombing is to love bomb you to get you so dependent on them that eventually they come back later and they use that power to actually to start to harm you. So I guess Pastor Cal is saying, how do you know that this man isn't just telling you all these nice things to gain control over you? And later on, he's going to turn into the big bad wolf. And the reason why I don't necessarily believe that Brandon is going to turn into that is because I believe the reason why Brandon is so in love with MM is because of the fact that MM already does so much for him. And that's the role she likes to play in her relationship anyway. My man, my man, my man, my man. She likes to play that role. So Brandon isn't even going to have to manipulate MM to even being and doing those things because it's actually who MM is already. So I don't have no problem with these two together, to be honest with you. They over here doing a commitment ceremony and MM is still not even divorced. It's weird. It is very, very weird. And does Brandon like the spotlight? He does. Brandon loves, loves, loves the spotlight. And you know what? MM is the type of person where she's willing to give it to him. Like I said, you couldn't have two people who want the spotlight because then they would be fighting. Brandon loves the spotlight. He loves it. And Brandon has a lot of confidence, self-confidence. Brandon's the type of person where he's not going to be embarrassed of an MM because in a lot of ways, Brandon is filled with so much confidence of his own in terms of he loves the spotlight. And in addition to that, what Brandon will do, even if it's a moment for MM, Brandon will come along and not be jealous of the moment for MM. He will come along and snatch the moment from her and make it his own. See, Brandon's motto is, why be jealous when you can just make it your own moment? MM is the one on Married at First Sight. Brandon doesn't need to be jealous of MM on Married at First Sight because what Brandon says, I'm just going to come in and make it my own. Brandon says, I don't really need to be jealous of MM's apartment and success because I'm just going to come in and make this house my own. It's almost like I always say, listen, the next best thing to being rich is having a rich friend. And that's how Brandon thinks. Brandon says, you know what? I can be, if MM want to run around and be Oprah, then Brandon's saying I can run around and be Gail, right? I don't need to be jealous of Oprah. All I need to do is when Oprah's on that yacht, I'm going to be there right with her, champagneing it up. Champagneing it up. Because Brandon's saying, I ain't got no jealousy because all I know is I want to be seen. And so what I'm going to do is whatever spotlights MM creates in her life, wherever she goes and all her success, I'm going to be there right there with her, cheering her on and being in the spotlight right with her. Because MM ain't going to be on the red carpet by herself. Brandon said he going to be there right with her. And he said, if I want more spotlight for myself, then what I need to do is I need to encourage MM. I need to make MM the champion of the world so she can go out here and accomplish some great things so I can be there right with her. Brandon sees the bigger picture. He sees the bigger picture. That's why I think these two are going to do well together. Is it a form of using? It is. It's a form of using but it's also a way in which wants to be used. It ain't using you when you want to be used in that way. That's what I'm saying. This is looking good, y'all. This is looking real good. In the end, they finally did a cheers to the future. And in a lot of ways, I want to say that the best couples ended up being the couples the experts didn't even make. The best couples coming out of this season ended up being Madison and David and and Brandon. And the couple that the experts did make, which is Camille and Thomas, is actually, of the three couples, they're the worst couple. So there you go. We thought the experts got it right, but they didn't get it right. In fact, to be honest with you, when you think about this season, how these experts put opposites together that were not complementary. You had Juan over here stuck in the mud. You had Carla, who was free thinking. They were really miles apart, and it was trying to get them to come to the middle and compromise, and they weren't able to make it there. Same thing with Michelle and David, two people on opposite ends. You had super responsible Michelle. You had lazy, irresponsible David, and they were not able to come together. Then on the other hand, you also had Madison, who was a wild child trying to turn a hole in a housewife, and you had Alan, who was the good guy, the all-around American boy in a lot of ways, and the two of them couldn't come together. And what everyone needed was they needed someone that was going to speak to who they are, and there was too much apart. So you say to yourself, if this was the thing with all the other couples, even MM and Ikeji, if this was the thing that all these couples were really far apart, what you really got to ask yourself is, why did even Camille and Thomas make it? And the truth of the matter is, they weren't supposed to make it, because even Thomas and Camille are miles apart, because Thomas is afraid of rejection and Camille loves to reject. So the two of them actually shouldn't have been together. And that's why I say that they need to go to therapy and counseling, because if they don't go to therapy and counseling, their marriage is going to end up like all these other couples' marriages did. It's just been delayed. The only reason why I think Camille and Thomas even made it to the end was not because of Camille. Camille actually didn't do any work. Thomas did all the work. Thomas kept his mouth shut. And Thomas kept his mouth shut and his nose down, and he did what he needed to do to get this marriage to the finish line. But in the end, I'm not for sure the work was worth it, because Camille did not grow. She didn't grow. She didn't stretch. And here we are a whole year and a half later, and she hasn't stretched. Like I said, she's still wearing a two-piece. She's still wearing a two-piece. But anyway, that's it, y'all. That's all I got. Like I said, please like the video, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.